Big up, big up, big up. Welcome, welcome everyone to another episode of, oh, okay, I just got the notification. Welcome to another episode of Constructive Convos, where we bring in the conversation back to Black. You know, today we have a really, really unique show for everyone. We're going to be kind of extending our book club and sharing things that are going on in our book club with you. We're going to be reviewing the book called The Art of War. I'm sure some people heard about it, and then if you didn't, you know, we want some participation in the chat. You know, without any further ado, let me introduce the panel members. We have our brother B2. Say big up to the family.
Big up family, powers to the families.
We have our brother E Black.
Big up, big up.
Brother James Jones.
Yo.
We have our brother Raz. Okay. And we also have our brother Witness.
Peace and greetings.
So like I said, what we're going to do is we're going to be doing the audio version of the book. We're going to be listening to some of it. So even if you haven't read it, don't feel bad. You won't miss out. You'll be able to get some of this good knowledge, right? We're going to listen to some of it, and then we're going to have dialogue. And we want to have that dialogue be with you in the chat as well as everyone on the panel. So without any further ado, E, you can go, hit play. And don't forget to hit the like button.
Gildan Media presents Your Coach in a Box, affordable, life-changing audio programs.
The Art of War by Sun Tzu, narrated by Don Hagen. 1. Laying plans. 1. Sun Tzu said, "The art of war is of vital importance to the state." 2. It is a matter of life and death, a road either to safety or to ruin. Hence, it is a subject of inquiry which can on no account be neglected. 3. The art of war, then, is governed by 5 constant factors to be taken into account in one's deliberations when seeking to determine the conditions obtaining in the field. 4. These are 1. The moral law. 2. Heaven. 3. Earth. 4. The commander. 5. Method and discipline. 5.6. The moral law causes the people to be in complete accord with their ruler, so that they will follow him regardless of their lives, undismayed by any danger. 7. Heaven signifies night and day, cold and heat, times and seasons. 8. Earth comprises distances, great and small, danger and security, open ground and narrow passes, the chances of life and death. 9. The commander stands for the virtues of wisdom, sincerity, benevolence, courage, and strictness. 10. By method and discipline are to be understood the marshaling of the army in its proper subdivisions, the gradations of rank among the officers, the maintenance of roads by which supplies may reach the army, and the control of military expenditure. 11. These 5 heads should be familiar to every general. He who knows them will be victorious. He who knows them not will fail. 12. Therefore, in your deliberations, when seeking to determine the military conditions, let them be made the basis of a comparison in this wise. 13. 1. Which of the two sovereigns is imbued with the moral law? 2. Which of the two generals has most ability? 3. With whom lie the advantages derived from heaven and earth? 4. On which side is discipline most rigorously enforced? 5. Which army is the stronger? 6. On which side are officers and men more highly trained? 7. In which army is there the greater constancy both in reward and punishment? 14. By means of these 7 considerations, I can forecast victory or defeat. 15. The general that hearkens to my counsel and acts upon it will conquer. Let such a one be retained in command. The general that hearkens not to my counsel nor acts upon it.
You know him, yeah? I'm feeling like you touched on a lot.
I can hear you. Yeah, true.
Yeah.
Oh, we can hear you, so.
I think it was going a bit fast. But yeah, you lot want to carry on or you lot want to go in on that a little bit?
I think we could talk about some of the, because it really is kind of going fast.
Yeah, I slowed it down still after a bit, like to 0.8. That's the slowest that it goes. But yeah, like I thought that was quite interesting that he was multiple times he talked about being able to forecast who the winner was. And then by going into those 7 points, when you look at them, what the actual points are, it's a good measuring stick to deliberate who you think is going to win in a situation, like in war, at least anyway.
Yeah, I agree still.
No, I mean that's valuable. That's good that if you operate from a perspective of you forecasting success and victory, I think that will guide your behaviors and I guess be like a motivation kind of thing. You know, like I think a lot of times people fail because they really have a negative outlook on things and they actually expect failure from themselves. So that's kind of powerful.
Yeah, see, like some of them, I didn't catch all of the points, not gonna lie. The ones that I got here out of the 7, yeah, was the one with the most ability, the one that is most disciplined, the stronger, the ones that are higher trained, and the ones that they practice reward and punishment the firmest. Any of them stick out to you? Like?
I think the punishment versus reward one will be interesting still.
Most of them seem straightforward to me. I didn't see any. None of them sounded controversial or tricky. So, I was just curious though. This guy is giving the art of war. I thought maybe his intelligence would be to create peace, but I guess we can discuss that later on. But so far, the things mentioned, they seem straightforward and they make sense from what I've heard.
In one of the Art of Wars that I read, it's in the introduction, it talks about the Art of War being used also to avoid war, like to use when it's being used on you, when certain strategies so you can see them so you don't end up being a victim of war. So I don't know if that's a little bit towards what he's saying.
Yeah, that definitely works to avoid becoming a victim of war. Yeah, but I guess war would be the last resort And if you're going to do it, know how to do it effectively. So yeah, makes sense.
I'm going to run it, yeah.
All right.
Will suffer defeat. Let such a one be dismissed. 16. While heeding the profit of my counsel, avail yourself also of any helpful circumstances over and beyond the ordinary rules. 17. According as circumstances are favorable, one should modify one's plans. 18. All warfare is based on deception.
Wait 1 second, E. He said you should modify your what?
Hence, when able to attack, we must seem unable. When using our forces, we must seem inactive. When we are near, we must make the enemy believe we are far away. When far away, we must make him believe we are near. 20. Hold out baits to entice the enemy, feign disorder, and crush him. 21. If he is secure at all points, be prepared for him. If he is in superior strength, evade him. 22. If your opponent is of choleric temper, seek to irritate him. Pretend to be weak, that he may grow arrogant. 23. If he is taking his ease, give him no rest. 24. Attack him where he is unprepared. Appear where you are not expected. 25. These military devices leading to victory must not be divulged beforehand. 26. Now the general who wins a battle makes many calculations in his temple ere the battle is fought. The general who loses a battle makes but few calculations beforehand. Thus do many calculations lead to victory, and few calculations to defeat, or no calculation at all. It is by attention to this point that I can foresee who is likely to win or lose. Two, waging war. 1. Sun Tzu said, in the operations of war, where there are in the field 1,000 swift chariots, as many heavy chariots, and 100,000 mail-clad soldiers, with provisions enough to carry them 1,000 li, the expenditure at home and at the front, including entertainment of guests, small items such as glue and paint, and sums spent on chariots and armor, will reach the total of 1,000 ounces of silver per day. Such is the cost of raising an army of 100,000 men. 2. When you engage in actual fighting, if victory is long in coming, the men's weapons will grow dull and their ardor will be damped. If you lay siege to a town, you will exhaust your strength. 3. Again, if the campaign is protracted, the resources of the state will not be equal to the strain. 4. Now, when your weapons are dulled, your ardor damped, your strength exhausted, and your treasures spent, other chieftains will spring up to take advantage of your extremity. Then no man, however wise, will be able to avert the consequences that must ensue. 5. Thus, though we have heard of stupid haste in war, cleverness has never been associated with long delays. 6. There is no instance of a country having benefited from prolonged warfare. 7. It is only one who is thoroughly acquainted with the evils of war that can thoroughly understand the profitable way of carrying it on. 8. The skillful soldier does not raise a second levy, neither are his supply wagons loaded more than twice. 9. Bring war material with you from home, put forage on the enemy. Thus the army will have food enough for its needs. 10. Poverty of the state exchequer causes an army to be maintained by contributions from a distance. Contributing to maintain an army at a distance causes the people to be impoverished. 11. On the other hand, the proximity of an army causes prices to go up, and high prices cause the people's substance to be drained away. 12. When their substance is drained away, the peasantry will be afflicted by heavy exactions. 13-14. With this loss of substance and exhaustion of strength, the homes of the people will be stripped bare, and 3/10 of their incomes will be dissipated, while government expenses for broken chariots, worn-out horses, breastplates and helmets, bows and arrows, spears and shields, protective mantlets, draft oxen and heavy wagons will amount to 4/10 of its total revenue. 15. Hence, a wise general makes a point of foraging on the enemy. 1 carload of the enemy's provisions is equivalent to 20 of one's own, and likewise, a single pickle of his provender is equivalent to 20 from one's own store.
Brother E?
16. Now, in order
Yeah, I think, yeah, he was just saying so much, and I, certain things was kind of standing out to me, and I didn't want to. I'm not in a place where I'm like writing everything down, so I just, I hope that was a good stopping place because we didn't really.
Yeah, got you. Whenever, sis.
Okay. One of the things that I was liking was like thinking about how weary your enemy may be, and then capitalizing on that, because it was talking about like if they're fighting for very long and their weapons will get dull, how that could be to your benefit. And sometimes people may be coming at us, and eventually they will not be able to come at us as fervently as they are. They will get weary. It's just like when you're watching like a boxing fight, the way a person fights in round 1 is not the way that they fight in round 11. You know what I mean? Like, it's just, and they're very skilled fighters. They know how to conserve their energy so that in round 11 they can perform optimal, and they're counting on their opponent not being at their optimal place at round 11. So yeah, I thought that was really key, and when I heard it, it stood out to me. I don't know what you guys think about that.
Yeah, like I definitely think, even like with the analogy you gave in terms of like boxing, right? In terms of having some kind of game plan, and like the game plan taking into account, obviously, like our own strengths and like also our opponent, right? In terms of like, okay, if we was boxing somebody that gasses out, then we want to be, taking them to the later rounds and then taking them out.
Exactly.
I feel you on that.
Yeah, exactly. Like that's you know, personally, I can recall a time at work where you know, my administrator was I could say that they was like picking on me, trying to bully me, and there was a point where I was so tempted to give them that fire, that smoke. I was like, "You want this work?" And one of my colleagues was like, "No, no, no. Um, we're gonna we're gonna outlast her. We're gonna be here after she's gone." You know, and the person encouraged me to basically give her that smoke in writing, which is what I did. You know, and I killed her with kindness in an email, and I CC'd everybody I could CC on them, all of my emails. And sure enough, within 2 years, that lady was not removed or transferred, but she was terminated. And to me, that showed me like sometimes you gotta like make the bell ring and go to the next round. You can't just try to just take the person out in this round, you know, because you could risk giving up all your energy and getting knocked the mess out. You know what I'm saying? Like, you know, like I could have just spazzed and been disrespectful or gotten written up or got terminated if I would have came at her with that energy. But because I fell back, because I switched up my strategy and started communicating and writing and documenting everything. You know, I'm not saying I was the person that got her fired, but I'm just saying that um, a group of people kind of had the same strategy, and we're still employed, and she's not. You see what I'm saying? So, um, you know, to people that's listening, that type, you know, just that one law right there, you know, if you implement it, it could benefit you.
And I think I also caught
Yeah,
a line where
definitely. Come on, bro.
your enemy doesn't it, or be where you're not expected to be. You get it? So it is also that element of surprise and, like you guys was just saying, being aware of the long game. I mean, sorry, bro, but yeah, got you.
Yeah, like I definitely think that's really, yeah, that's a powerful one in terms of the, like, both of being unexpected and also like stop being predictable as well. Do you see what I'm saying? Because like a lot of the time we are trying to knock something out in that first round and they expecting that. So they're just waiting for us to guess. And then, you know, they're in position to clean up, whether that be, you know, the situation now with like mortgages or whatever it be, man. They just want to take advantage. So yeah, man, we need to be positioning ourselves to last and go into the later rounds if necessary. And also, like, see when I was talking about the movement of goods, like from a distance, right? I was thinking like in terms of producers and having a hub, right? So say like when you think about the motherland and like all of the connected places, yeah, like the Caribbean and stuff like that, yeah, then it's far from us, right? And we don't have so many local hubs. So everything that's like, if we want to get our own stuff, it's expensive, like in money and time and effort. Like where certain other communities, they got local hubs, so they're paying the local rate, if you get what I'm saying. Like there's enough of their shops where it's not exotic. It's not like, yeah, especially if you come out of main cities. Like if you go into certain cities, you're getting planting from Chinese people and that. It's mad.
Tell me about it, man. Shit is irritating me. These people got a freaking monopoly on fake hair and plantains. What the hell? Can a black person sell some plantains? I don't care what kind of diasporic black person you are. Can we own plantains? Please, somebody.
Yeah, it's coming, it's coming. But
Yeah.
if no one's got anything else
Tell me
that they
about
want to say, I'm a run the thing.
Okay.
Opposed to anger, that there may be an advantage from defeating the enemy, they must have their rewards. 17. Therefore, in chariot fighting, when 10 or more chariots have been taken, those should be rewarded who took the first. Our own flags should be substituted for those of the enemy, and the chariots mingled and used in conjunction with ours. The captured soldiers should be kindly treated and kept. 18. This is called using the conquered foe to augment one's own strength. 19. In war, then, let your great object be victory, not lengthy campaigns. 20. Thus it may be known that the leader of armies is the arbiter of the people's fate, the man on whom it depends whether the nation shall be in peace or in peril. Three, attack by stratagem. 1. Sun Tzu said, in the practical art of war, the best thing of all is to take the enemy's country whole and intact. To shatter and destroy it is not so good. So, too, it is better to capture an army entire than to destroy it, to capture a regiment, a detachment, or a company entire than to destroy them. 2. Hence, to fight and conquer in all your battles is not supreme excellence. Supreme excellence consists in breaking the enemy's resistance without fighting. 3. Thus, the highest form of generalship is to balk the enemy's plans. The next best is to prevent the junction of the enemy's forces. The next in order is to attack the enemy's army in the field. And the worst policy of all is to besiege walled cities. 4. The rule is not to besiege walled cities if it can possibly be avoided. The preparation of mantlets, movable shelters, and various implements of war will take up 3 whole months, and the piling up of mounds over against the walls will take 3 months more. 5. The general, unable to control his irritation, will launch his men to the assault like swarming ants, with the result that 1/3 of his men are slain, while the town still remains untaken. Such are the disastrous effects of a siege. 6. Therefore, the skillful leader subdues the enemy's troops without any fighting. He captures their cities without laying siege to them. He overthrows their kingdom without lengthy operations in the field. 7. With his forces intact, he will dispute the mastery of the empire, and thus, without losing a man, his triumph will be complete. This is the method of attacking by stratagem. 8. It is the rule in war, if our forces are 10 to the enemy's 1, to surround him. If 5 to 1, to attack him. If twice as numerous, to divide our army into 2. 9. If equally matched, we can offer battle. If slightly inferior in numbers, we can avoid the enemy. If quite unequal in every way, we can flee from him. 10. Hence, though an obstinate fight may be made by a small force, in the end it must be captured by the larger force. 11. Now the general is the bulwark of the state. If the bulwark is complete at all points, the state will be strong. If the bulwark is defective, the state will be weak. 12. There are 3 ways in which a ruler can bring misfortune upon his army. 13. 1. By commanding the army to advance or to retreat, being ignorant of the fact that it cannot obey. This is called hobbling the army. 14. 2. By attempting to govern an army in the same way as he administers a kingdom, being ignorant of the conditions which obtain in an army. This causes restlessness in the soldier's mind. 15. 3. By employing the officers of his army without discrimination, through ignorance of the military principle of adaptation to circumstances. This shakes the confidence of the soldiers. 16. But when the army is restless and distrustful, trouble is sure to come from the other feudal princes. This is simply bringing anarchy into the army and flinging victory away. 17. Thus we may know that there are 5 essentials for victory. 1. He will win who knows when to fight and when not to fight. 2. He will win who knows how to handle both superior and inferior forces. 3. He will win whose army is animated by the same spirit throughout all its ranks. 4. He will win who prepared himself, waits to take the enemy unprepared. 5. He will win who has military capacity and is not interfered with by the sovereign. Victory lies in the knowledge of these 5 points. 18. Hence the saying, if you know the enemy and know yourself, you need not fear the result of 100 battles. If you know yourself but not the enemy, for every victory gained, you will also suffer a defeat. If you know neither the enemy nor yourself, you will succumb in every battle. Four, tactical dispositions. 1. Sun Tzu said,
Yeah, I'm gonna pause it there for a sec, yeah? Anyone got anything they wanna speak on?
I love it.
Hold on. I was Oh, go ahead, Russ. I was trying to unmute my mic. Go ahead.
No, I was just saying that it's all the stuff that I love, man. It's just it's very, yeah, it's just amazing, man.
Raz the warmonger.
It'd be good if we had the text, just so we could go over some of the last lines, because you know, as he's reading it, sometimes you just kind of, yeah.
You know what I started doing? I opened up my little notepad on my phone because I was frustrated that I think I had more to say and I couldn't remember. So let me just read. I think he mentioned number 17, and I figured this was something that we kind of talked about briefly right before we went live, but then I heard it again. Number 17 is that the captured soldiers, he mentioned for you to treat them kindly, and I wanted to know what everybody thought about that, because you know, it's interesting.
Captured soldiers, treat them kindly.
Yeah, I spoke to E earlier about it. He was talking about by treating them kindly, you'd be able to extract information from them willingly, information that you are intelligence that you might be unable to obtain yourself. So you might be able to get it from these captured prisoners.
Okay. Yeah, that's definitely hopefully one thing that can come out of treating them kindly.
I think if it's on purpose for them, then yeah, like maybe it's going to be important to treat them kindly. But then boy, just kill them, innit?
Just kill a minute. Lil, I mean, I think it depends on like what you want from these prisoners. You know what I'm saying? Like, and when I'm thinking about non-war situations, like how this book can be applied. Let's not necessarily in a war situation, but someone that you may perceive to be your enemy and you have subdued them in whatever kind of way, like, then how do you treat them? Do you completely like isolate yourself from them? It's like, all right, I kicked your ass, boom, I ain't talking to you no more. Now you know what's up. Don't even try that crap again. And you just done it? Or are you cordial with them? Are you using them as some sort of resource now because you done kicked their ass and they kind of like they're humbled by you? Do you use them now for whatever benefit it could benefit you? Whether it's now they're eager to give you information. Now they're eager to, hey, you can have my parking spot because you're bigger and badder than me. I mean, I don't know. Like,
To me,
it's kind of like
suggesting
that you show some level of humility to someone that you dominated for a later benefit. That's kind of what I was getting from it.
To me personally, submission is really more power than exclusion.
Say that one more time. Say that one more time because it was messed up a little bit. It messed up just a little bit. Submission is what?
Submission to me is way more powerful than exclusion, or like or like kicking someone out of your life. See, if I had an enemy that was constantly reminding me, it's more beneficial for me to submit him than to exclude him completely, because I may have a use for him down the line in the future to attain to a bigger goal. So I think that I think that it should be the ultimate goal to have a certain group of people under their thumb more than making them like there's just a gray zone. Like if you look at like the relationship between whites and blacks, it's that relationship where we're not excluded, we're not put completely out the sideline, but we're in submission and we're used in a buffer type of situation where they don't want to completely alienate us in order for us to potentially rebel in a way that they won't expect it, but they put us in a specific box where we're still useful, they're still very
wow,
useful.
that's a really good, great analogy. Like, turning that joint around on us. I feel you. I can't even be in denial about that.
Yeah, that's why like when people say, oh, why do you still like talk to this person? Why do you still have a cordial relationship with so and so after so and so? I'm like, I don't know where I'm gonna find myself. Like your enemies will do more favors for you than than certain times your friend, because they have more to prove. You see that as with the relationship between the white and blacks. Like black people will do the most to prove themselves to white people because they already have themselves in a situation of submission where they need to they need to like beg, not beg, like they need to like fight for approval from the perceived enemy because they don't want to be enemies. So you've got one person, not trying to get out of the enemy zone and the other person in it, That's the ideal dynamic in reverse, in my opinion. And you can apply it to also relationships as well, like what the man was saying. You can apply that with relationships, like romantic relationships as well. You can reapply it to a lot of things, to be honest. But yeah.
Where's our book?
Wait, I missed that part about the romantic relationship. Can you go back to that?
I'm saying that you can apply that to romantic relationships as well.
What do you mean? Like, apply which part?
The part I can't remember, but there's a part in it that when you said it, my mind just went straight to the dynamic of a man or woman trying to get into a place with the significant other, but not being committed and just exiting it out, and sort of like there was a part of it
using them to their benefit. Like sometimes people stick around even though they recognize like this person may have some wrong or some bad attributes. They may keep them around for the positive attributes that they bring, like kind of, strategically, right? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, and even flip it up as well, where it's like presenting a face to a specific person in order to get something. Once you get it, you retract, and when you retract, they then come in and try to clamor for your approval, but you're never going to give it to them, so they forever chase your approval and chase your validation.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like you're in a position of power, then a position of submission, and the chances of them coming out of that situation is very, very difficult. And I think that like we can observe these relationships and these things in everyday life, and it's very pronounced in relationships as well. I see that a lot in relationships where the power dynamics is in favor of one person due to removal of whatever.
Hey, Raz, let me just interject really quickly. I'm not sure exactly how many people we have watching, but if you have not yet, please like the show, share the show. We want to make sure that this show gets in people's algorithms, that the algorithms pick it up, and more people will see this and they're suggested. We feel like this content is important, that people are armed with the various tools to operate through life in a strategic way, that they're fully understanding what's going on with them and how they could do certain actions to kind of circumvent certain things. So, that's what we all about over here at Constructive Convos. We're trying to just, share the information as we get it. So, yeah, go ahead, Raz. If you done? I'm sorry, I know I interrupted you.
No,
I had one more. I had one more note. I forgot which law it was, but he talked about understanding basically, how to judge your actions. Should you attack? Should you fall back? Should you retreat? Should you observe? And he listed certain circumstances. So what I wrote down was when you felt that your opponents basically when they were kind of equal to you in their ability, it said for you to avoid them. And I was like, whoa, as a positive. that, you know, not to exhaust your efforts. You know, imagine how many of your soldiers could be dead, or how much of your resources you could waste, right? Coming against an equal opponent. And I'm sure that as the book goes on, I'm sure that there would be other strategies for dealing with the opponent that you feel is equal to you as far as their ability. But to me, that sounded, it just stood out because when I'm listening to a book that's talking about war, I'm thinking war, I'm thinking attack, fight to the death, to, you know, perseverance. I'm thinking all of this stuff. And I hear avoid him. And it says that you have to, I wrote down that you have to consider the strengths of your soldiers and how they see structure when leading. So he talked about understanding like the difference between the kingdom, ruling the kingdom, and ruling, overseeing your soldiers. And the mindset of a soldier is different than the mindset of a person who's in the kingdom. And you know, I just think that oftentimes people deal with other people as if that's their enemy, and they may come to them with unnecessary energy when they're like, where is this coming from? And it's because you're not at war with this person, or this person isn't your opposition, this person isn't actually against you. But because if you lack the ability to differentiate between having like a soldier mind and more like a person in the kingdom mind, then you will come against people that are in the kingdom as if you're at war. And again, just hearing that, I'm glad that I thought to do this whole note taking thing while I'm listening to it, because it allowed me to capture that. So yeah, that's what I got.
Yeah, and also there was also like for me it's like weakness is the illusion of weakness is the greatest strength that anyone can have in warfare of any type, whether that's be politically, real war, or just like relationship dynamics, like friendships or whatever, business. Like if you appear weak to whoever you're going up against, they're way more likely to dismiss your strengths and not even look at your strengths. So that's already putting you on an advantage. And once you have that advantage, you can now have the platform to do whatever they want, and they will never ever suspect you being in a specific position of strength. So boxing, so the person who beat Mike Tyson, what was his name? Was this guy that what was it? George Foreman? Oh no, that was well in boxing. Yeah, basically, there's this guy that won bet one of the who was unbeatable, and he beat him, and the way he beat him is that for the previous 5 fights that he had, he'd do shit, but he still win, but he'd do so shit. So he did extremely simple mistakes that you wouldn't do as a professional boxer. And he presented himself to his opponent as weak, as not as tactical, as deficient in strength, right? So when he did face that undefeated champion, I can't remember if it was Tyson or Muhammad Ali, but one of them were undefeated at the time. I can't remember which one was against him. The undefeated champion already seen his previous 5 fights, because you know what, that's what boxers do. They study their opponent's fights to see their weaknesses and stuff. He purposely played his 6 of 5 fights leading up to the fight with that champion, and he specifically made mistakes to make himself look weaker to that champion. Now, that is an ideal scenario for me because it sort of like puts you in a position of strength because your opponent already underestimates you. So once he underestimates you now, you can only overdo it. There's no fine line between you overdoing it and you winning and you losing, because he already thinks you're gonna lose because you've already not seen certain strength. Because if Mike Tyson or Muhammad Ali had watched his 45th, like 45 fights that he'd done previously, he would have known that, yo, this guy is not to mess with. So I think that applying that to like all situations, whether it be relationship, business, and all of that, and putting yourself in that position of like sort of like being weaker than you actually are may actually be a strength. And I remember when I was having a discussion with someone about black people, I was saying like, I can't remember if it was in CC or but it was more of like, I think that we are in a unique position of weakness, that we already seem weak, and this is a position of strength. We should be less quick to march, because marching doesn't do anything. We're less quick to do all of these fickle things that just make us look angry and aggressive and non-strategic, and focus more on the elements of that are being talked in this book. Yeah, I think that's what we need to be doing really, and use this position that we're perceived by the world as weakness to gather strength to march up to the final attack,
I do like with the marching thing, it's not really my thing as well, but I do see like, the use of it, right? Like in terms of it's a place where people link up in person and, with the people that are on the same frequency. And I think, I can't remember what I said in the book, but I did say something about that, with the army, like throughout the ranks being the same.
Yeah,
So
but
basically,
but it's
like
but
throughout the
it's
ranks.
not but it's not a useful thing at a time when you don't have strength. Like, remember, like, because he was saying, because he was saying like marching together with all your soldiers and your leaders and sort of like at that stage, but they're marching because they can make noise and they can actually shake things. You don't want, because you marching is announcing to your enemy that you're approaching the gates of the city, and if you are not in a position of strength, there's no reason to alert your enemy that you are on your way to engage in warfare. And it could be done. I'd see where it could be done to scare the army. Like I think there was a battle with Muhammad where he sent a load of different horsemen, but they just kept on making noises in a specific way to make it seem as if they had more numbers that they didn't, and that caused everybody to flee, apparently. So I see how that can apply to the thing, but we don't have certain things in position to make that effective. So we don't have people in government that could lobby us if we're making those noises in the streets and marching and all of that stuff. So what we're doing is actually aggravating the bear and making them more vicious and more angry, because they're like, oh shit, these guys are on something, and they're not even focused. The energy isn't even on a legislative basis. It's on a holistic marching basis. Do you know what I mean? It's like you need to combine the two strategies where you are marching, but you also got your power in parliament or in Congress to push your agenda, because you're just marching. You know what's going to happen. They're just going to come in with their dogs and with their thing and just shoot. See what happened in the 60s when they were marching, and then there was black businessmen and black businesswomen that were pushing a certain thing in government. That got changed because there was the two elements working together. But if you're just marching and if there's no strategy and there's no tangible thing to it, you're just aggravating the enemy, and he's gonna come and wipe you out. It doesn't make sense to do that. It's counterintuitive, in my opinion.
Yo, big up, Shakara.
Big up. We just been joined by our brother Shakara. Have you been listening, brother Shakara?
In and out. I've got
We've been
but
running the book though.
I'm
So, like, that's
hearing.
what we're doing. Yeah, we're running the book and stopping like every chapter. You get me? So, gonna run this one so you can catch up with what's going on, and then at the end
Yeah,
of
I
this
realize.
chapter, it's only about 5 minutes. Yeah.
Most of it.
I feel.
The good
Yeah.
fighters of old first put themselves beyond the possibility of defeat, and then waited for an opportunity of defeating the enemy. 2. To secure ourselves against defeat lies in our own hands, but the opportunity of defeating the enemy is provided by the enemy himself. 3. Thus, the good fighter is able to secure himself against defeat, but cannot make certain of defeating the enemy. 4. Hence the saying, one may know how to conquer without being able to do it. 5. Security against defeat implies defensive tactics. Ability to defeat the enemy means taking the offensive. 6. Standing on the defensive indicates insufficient strength, attacking a superabundance of strength. 7. The general who is skilled in defense hides in the most secret recesses of the earth. He who is skilled in attack flashes forth from the topmost heights of heaven. Thus, on the one hand, we have ability to protect ourselves. On the other, a victory that is complete. 8. To see victory only when it is within the ken of the common herd is not the acme of excellence. 9. Neither is it the acme of excellence if you fight and conquer, and the whole empire says, well done. 10. To lift an autumn hair is no sign of great strength. To see sun and moon is no sign of sharp sight. To hear the noise of thunder is no sign of a quick ear. 11. What the ancients called a clever fighter is one who not only wins, but excels in winning with ease. 12. Hence his victories bring him neither reputation for wisdom nor credit for courage. 13. He wins his battles by making no mistakes. Making no mistakes is what establishes the certainty of victory, for it means conquering an enemy that is already defeated. 14. Hence, the skillful fighter puts himself into a position which makes defeat impossible and does not miss the moment for defeating the enemy. 15. Thus it is that in war, the victorious strategist only seeks battle after the victory has been won, whereas he who is destined to defeat first fights and afterwards looks for victory. 16. The consummate leader cultivates the moral law and strictly adheres to method and discipline. Thus, it is in his power to control success. 17. In respect of military method, we have, firstly, measurement. Secondly, estimation of quantity. Thirdly, calculation. Fourthly, balancing of chances. Fifthly, victory. 18. Measurement owes its existence to earth. Estimation of quantity to measurement. Calculation to estimation of quantity. Balancing of chances to calculation. And victory to balancing of chances. 19. A victorious army opposed to a routed one is as a pound's weight placed in the scale against a single grain. 20. The onrush of a conquering force is like the bursting of pent-up waters into a chasm 1,000 fathoms deep. So much for tactical dispositions. 5.
Yeah, I'm gonna pause it there, yeah.
Yeah, bro.
You like an end, yeah?
Jam packed. There's a lot. You have to be taking notes on this.
Yo, I'm like, can we? Yo, he was saying so much stuff. I was like, and is it me or some of the stuff just sound like incomplete? Like I wanted him to just elaborate.
Like every list item he reels off, there's almost a talking point on that list item alone. Do you know what I mean?
Yes.
One of the things he just said here, measurement goes into estimation of quantity, goes into calculation, goes into balancing of chances, which then leads to victory. I feel like within that, there's 5 discussions there alone. You know what I mean? So,
Yeah, true.
and it's only because I started taking a note that I could even remember to record that. So, I don't know if we want to go back a little bit and capture something that we want to decide we want to talk on and just unpick
Yeah,
it.
I can't front. This last one, I was just like, each one, I was before. By the time I'm thinking like how I want to write it down, he's on to a next one, and I'm like, bro, what is he talk? What? Like, I was just like, what?
Content in there still.
Yeah, it's deep. It's deep.
So I
Like
don't know
really thinking about how he's looking at conflict, and is that conflict I guess like the mindset of the person that is the leader in the conflict. It's sometimes it seemed like from one section that we're reviewing to another, it's kind of changing, and I guess that kind of threw me off a little bit on how I'm looking at it.
Yeah, I agree. And you know,
Can I ask a question? Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
So I just wanted to clarify. Did he say measurement owes itself to Earth? Was that the word Earth?
Believe it, so.
I got measurement.
23. Thus, the energy developed much from individuals. Hence, his ability to pick out the right men and to utilize logs or stones. For it is the nature of a log if for a corner to come. 5. Energy. 4. The onrush of a conquering force, estimation of quantity, balancing of chances.
Is that the one? Wait, which one is it that do you remember the number that he said it, Shakara?
The list is
No, I don't, sorry.
Oh, okay.
Estimation
That's
of calculation, balancing of chances.
Yeah, no, I got the list, but after he lists it, then he goes into something else where he says like measurement owes itself to Earth, calculation of chances or something, and something else owes itself to measurement.
You know
and
what?
blah blah blah. I'm trying to figure out if he said Earth or not.
When he went into it backward, yeah, it just seemed like he said the list in the opposite direction. But I think that bit's gonna come up now if he plays it.
All right, cool.
I think we're slightly out of time as well. But that's cool.
Okay, so what number did you guys want Brother E to start back at so we could
Even this number, man. Say again.
From 5.
Number 5.
Number
So
5.
you know what I'm
Okay.
gonna do, yeah? I'm I'm gonna get the actual book out as well at the same time, so it's gonna be easier for me to
Yeah, I
engage
wasn't in
with
front of my computer, so I could like look along because I ain't even gonna lie to you. Listening to it, he's just saying too many jewels that in a matter of seconds. I can't even type that fast on my cell phone.
Yeah, even me when I'm writing, it's like, yeah, some parts, yeah, skip. But I like the whole kind of point there really was again about victory. I liked how he was talking about, the skillful fighter, not necessarily having the reputation, for, it talks about that in the Book of Five Ranks as well. He was a samurai that was basically grandmaster level, but yeah, he was always making it easy. Like he was killing people with like wooden swords and stuff like that, because it's just got to that level. And I feel, and it talks about, is it Nonwar where it talks about the doctor that heals people way before they're sick, like doesn't get the same reputation as the surgeon, but the doctor that's stopping people from needing a surgeon was really the better doctor, right? So, like I think in warfare, the one that is able to avoid, not even just avoid war, but to win without you seeing there even being a battle, is the superior general, right? I think that's a good narrative to push,
Yeah.
especially at, like, young people and the energy, thinking that it's best to be loud and that's what's strong.
He said something. He said something about not having a reputation for victory or courage or something like that. He said. I forget the wording, but it was good wording still.
Yeah, and he also something like win your battles by making no mistakes, make victory certain in conquering your enemy who is already defeated, or something along them type of lines. It sounds like, yeah, from the strategy point, it's very deliberate. Do you know what I'm saying? It's very thought out and it's very deliberate.
Also, one more thing that that when Eve was talking, I remembered. Did any of y'all peep him saying that, like, basically you focus on fighting the war first, and then you focus on victory, as opposed to focus on the victory? I was like, yeah, that's like, it makes so much sense. Like, so many people start celebrating prematurely. They call themselves the victor in a situation, and I think that takes away from basically like how strongly they're fighting the war. They basically like, oh, I got this, I'm that. They don't have that same, I don't know what I'm trying to say. They don't have that same push or drive towards it, because they're almost in their mind mentally at the finish line. So they're like, I don't have to give 100%, as opposed to a person who is like, I'm trying to get to this finish line. They busting their ass, they trying to get there. And then once they get there, then they can taste victory. So to me, that stood out.
Yeah, he said
in the constructive, sorry, bro, and in the constructive convos room, I put the 2 pages of the book for this chapter. So if you're looking for any of the points, you can see it straight there, and I'll do the rest of them as well.
Like he was just talking about, I think it's he who is committed to defeat their fights and then celebrates his victory after.
Yeah, there. See how he be wording stuff. I be needing to like process one sentence. I be needing to process. Hey, to everyone who's listening,
I'm not in front of my
joining,
computer right now. Yeah.
I was just gonna say to the listening audience, if you're just not joining, this is Constructive Convos, and what we're doing right now is we're reviewing one of the popular books, The Art of War. And one of the things that Constructive Convos, what we want to do is we want to help people and give information, and we want to process this knowledge so that we can all be better tomorrow than we are today. So we just trying to make it the conversation relevant. So go ahead, Brother Shakarai, what you're saying?
No, I was just gonna say I'm not in front of my computer right now. So if somebody can find me that section, I'll be grateful if they could read it. The one with the measurement owes itself to Earth and all that.
Oh, brother E, my phone is vibrating. He's dropping stuff in the Hangout as we speak. Let's see what we see.
Yeah, I found it. So 18. Measurement owes its existence to Earth. Estimation of quantity.
Right.
To calculation to estimation of quantity. Balances of chances to calculation. And victory to balancing of chances. So it was that same list, just back.
Yeah, that's an interesting section still.
What do you read in that? What do you read in that?
Nah, the reason why I said that is because after he said he put out the list, because the Earth part was not in the original rundown, is it? So when it says measurement owes its existence to Earth, that was interesting to me. But I think the whole thing is about environment and terrain.
When he did open the point, it was in respect to military methods.
Right.
He said, firstly measurement, secondly
I believe it will be talking about terrain, right? Or like, which basically would be environment, or in a business, it would be like within the landscape of the business and the laws that are being enacted in that field. But I definitely think, like when you read the word, you can see it differently. From hearing it, like you're saying, the words are so potent. When you actually read it word for word, so it's a lot more powerful.
And if you're reading it from like a more like poetic kind of application, then he does go on to like sort of personify it with nature. Like even in 20, soon after it goes on, the of a conquering force is like the bursting of pent up waters in the chasm of 1,000 fathoms deep. So I don't know exactly what the use of making it for nature. Participating.
But if you like, I'm going to run the next thing. The next chapter is energy, chapter 5. Yeah, I already put that in the back chat.
Okay, I see that. I'm going to go ahead, play. I'm going to go read it.
Quantity. Thirdly, 5. Energy. 1. Sun Tzu said, the control of a large force is the same in principle as the control of a few men. It is merely a question of dividing up their numbers. 2. Fighting with a large army under your command is no wise different from fighting with a small one. It is merely a question of instituting signs and signals. 3. To ensure that your whole host withstand the brunt of the enemy's attack and remain unshaken, this is effected by maneuvers direct and indirect. 4. The impact of your army may be like a grindstone dashed against an egg. This is affected by the science of weak points and strong. 5. In all fighting, the direct method may be used for joining battle, but indirect methods will be needed in order to secure victory. 6. Indirect tactics, efficiently applied, are inexhaustible as heaven and earth, unending as the flow of rivers and streams. Like the sun and moon, they end, but to begin new. Like the 4 seasons, they pass away, but to return once more. 7. There are not more than 5 musical notes. Yet the combination of these 5 give rise to more melodies than can ever be heard. 8. There are not more than 5 primary colors, yet in combination they produce more hues than can ever be seen. 9. There are not more than 5 cardinal tastes, yet combinations of them yield more flavors than can ever be tasted. 10. In battle, there are not
Brother?
more than 2 methods of attack, the direct and the indirect, yet these 2 in combination give rise to an endless series of maneuvers. 11. The direct and the indirect lead on to each other in turn. It is like moving in a circle. You never come to an end. Who can exhaust the possibilities of their combination? 12. The onset of troops is like the rush of a torrent, which will even roll stones along its course. 13. The quality of decision is like the well-timed swoop of a falcon, which enables it to strike and destroy its victim. 14. Therefore, the good fighter will be terrible in his onset and prompt in his decision. 15. Energy may be likened to the bending of a crossbow, decision to the releasing of the trigger. 16. Amid the turmoil and tumult of battle, there may be seeming disorder, and yet no real disorder at all. Amid confusion and chaos, your array may be without head or tail, yet it will be proof against defeat. 17. Simulated disorder postulates perfect discipline. Simulated fear postulates courage. Simulated weakness postulates strength. 18. Hiding order beneath the cloak of disorder is simply a question of attention. Concealing courage under a show of timidity presupposes a fund of latent energy. Masking strength with weakness is to be effected by tactical dispositions. 19. Thus, one who is skillful at keeping the enemy on the move maintains deceitful appearances, according to which the enemy will act. He sacrifices something that the enemy may snatch at it. 20. By holding out baits, he keeps him on the march. Then, with the body of picked men, he lies in wait for him. 21. The clever combatant looks to the effect of combined energy and does not require too much from individuals. Hence his ability to pick out the right men and to utilize combined energy. 22. When he utilizes combined energy, his fighting men become, as it were, like to rolling logs or stones. For it is the nature of a log or stone to remain motionless on level ground and to move when on a slope. If four-cornered, to come to a standstill, but if round-shaped, to go rolling down. 23. Thus, the energy developed by good fighting men is as the momentum of a round stone rolled down a mountain thousands of feet in height. So much on the subject of energy. Six, weak points and strong.
You hear me, yeah? That was fire.
Energy. No, momentum. I like
I like the way he identified, that it's important to be able to communicate with your army, right? And how it can be bigger or smaller as long as the lines of communication are just as strong in the smaller groups by positioning people to relay the message. Like instead of them having to travel so far, there's going to be points. And like if you look at like the UNIA, right? They established hubs in lots of countries. So someone's got some music in the background.
Sorry, my queen's having a party. So.
Yeah. So just being able to communicate over long distances and stuff like that, I think is really important, and to being able to organize. And I suppose in today's day and age, we feel like we can do that, right? But say now if WhatsApp cut off or certain things cut off, those lines of communication will be dead.
Oh, I'm over here talking and phone on mute. I was saying, yeah, you got that right. Like communication, I think we kind of take it for granted right now.
Yeah, just like we took going outside for granted.
What are you telling? Quarantine life,
Indeed.
baby.
That's a good point.
Hey, Eric, how are you? Peace to you, brother.
You're welcome.
I'm all right. Peace to you, Melody Goddess. I'm good. I'm in this, this social distancing thing.
Yeah, we're reviewing the book, The Art of War, right now.
Yeah, I'm reading my copy of it now. But the narrator who's reading it, the wording that he's reading, I mean, the meaning is the same, but the words are totally different.
It's totally different than the book, because E just sent us a couple of pages he sent us the chapter, the energy chapter, and it was the exact same. So I'm not sure if you have a different version that you're going through.
Well, I guess. Well,
what? I was going to ask a question about this. Sorry, go on, Eric.
No, I was just going to say that the author of the version of The Art of War that I have by Sun Tzu is Samuel B. Griffith. He's a translator. So
I was gonna ask a question about this, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Which is in your version, Eric, yeah, where they use the words direct and indirect, does he use the same words? Direct methods and indirect methods.
Chapter 5.
Actually, no. You know what? I don't see those words. See, that's the thing. His wording is different from the wording in here, in this copy that I have.
Right. Like if you go to energy, chapter 5, and then point 5 and 6, that's where it talks about indirect and direct.
Okay, here point 5 in chapter 5, it reads this.
All right.
Chapter 5, energy, generally in battle, use the normal force to engage, use the extraordinary to win. And then 6, now the resources of those skilled in the use of extraordinary forces are as infinite as the heavens and earth, as inexhaustible as the flow of the great rivers. And
that's interesting.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Then there's a note 6 here, like a footnote. Sun Tzu uses the characters Chiang and Po, which I have rendered the great river. So
my question was gonna be, that's beautiful. See, my question was gonna be, I wonder what the words would have been in its original language, and whether there's a more in-depth translation than direct and indirect. That just occurred to me when I was listening to it. I was thinking, these are interesting words. I wonder what it would mean if there are certain nuances in the language that direct and indirect is not catering for in translation. So yeah.
I'm sure that's the case, because whenever you translate something from its original language to another language, whether it be English or any other language, there's always some meaning lost in the translation simply because of how it's scripted, how the text is scripted.
So you're saying in your book the words normal and extraordinary are being used?
Yes. Because see, it says here, generally in battle, use the normal force to engage. Use the extraordinary to win.
To win. Yeah. So and in what we listen to, it says use the direct to engage and the indirect to win. Isn't it?
Yeah.
So what's the correlation between direct to normal and indirect and extraordinary?
I think the normal force is that once you see your enemy and you're engaging, you use forces that go straight face to face, okay, eye to eye, face to face, in the initial engagement in battle. But when you use the extraordinary, that means that you may have troops up in the mountains, okay, and the troops up in the mountains may use crossbows, for example, right, to fire from a distance and hit the enemy on the ground from the advantage of being above him.
Like, I'm thinking, partly this is because I've read like further, but I'm thinking indirect and extraordinary would be like espionage and subterfuge and like different kind of tactics that are not necessarily direct.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So, but yeah, saying that that's basically necessary to secure victory, and that one makes sense.
So in a sense, then, are we likening extraordinary and indirect to knowledge gathering?
Perhaps, yeah. That's what espionage is about.
I think it's about proceeding. Like it's basically about how you're going to move forward with this engagement. So some of it is going to be possibly direct, like on the battlefield, and then some of it is going to be, like building schools and like teaching their children their own stuff and these kind of things.
Right.
That makes sense. Yeah. I mean, your POWs, you re-educate them in a way that they think that they're at a great advantage being your prisoners than actually being the citizens of the valley.
Calling your name, baby.
Yeah. Go to you, bro.
Snuggle having a party going on right now. He had to go on mute. Snuggle having a party.
But sorry, Eric, was you still talking, bro?
No, I was just saying that, I was just chiming in on your point because you were talking about, building up schools and things like that. For the war weary and for the POWs and their families, if you do build up schools and things like that, you treat them with respect as human beings, but what you want to do is you want to convince them that it's better off serving under your reign than under the reign of the defeated army. They'll be more loyal towards you.
Yeah, and I suppose definitely it'll be beneficial to the other side as well, right? Because they'll be able to get information, knowledge, skills. Like Genghis Khan, he did that a lot, right? He took on like all the builders and people with skills. He just assimilated them into his nation.
Yeah, well, that's what the Romans did when the Romans conquered a new land. They said, we're all Romans now. You all are Romans, in whatever position you are in your livelihood. You stay in that same position, but you're Romans now. So basically, you work for us in the same capacity that you've been working in.
But see, you know what? It's funny, like, to hear that because, see, when I feel like within our community, when you hear Black people saying and sharing those type of sentiments, there's a part of our community that rejects that. that they feel like though that's a mindset from a long time ago, and we shouldn't carry that on. So if you, for instance, if you started to hear Black people speak about conquering other people because they haven't learned that this is a way of success, this is a way of advancement, this is a way of expanding our nation, right? There would be a large group of our community that would be like, hold on, no, we shouldn't be that way. And I'm not advocating like for us to be conquering people, but what I'm saying is that there's this divide that on one hand you recognize that this may be an optimal way. Like we can look at other communities and recognize their success, their superiority or dominance, or all of these things that that we've had other conversations about. But when we put those things on our community, then it's wrong. It's wrong for us to be that way. It's wrong for us to seek these things. It's wrong for us to strive for that position. And I think that's kind of crazy.
But actually, empires were built on the kings, the queens, the monarchs imitating the tactics of their former enemies and building their strategies upon those previous to their own and using it to their advantage to strengthen their own kingdoms. The problem is, though, is that when you go beyond your kingdom and try to defeat other kingdoms, no, you don't do that. Ultimately, what you want to do, you want to develop your own. You see what I'm saying? So that you can defend your own against any attack from the outside. Because why are you going to battle? Why would you want to go and battle the outside if you can't take care of your own? You got to take care of your own first. You take care of your own, then you teach your own how to defend your own.
Yeah, and like on the conquering as well, yeah. Even though it's the art of war, right? And like it's used a lot for reference in business and other stuff, right? Like even in terms of like being aggressive in certain spaces and trying to create monopolies or like vertical businesses, where the least exclusive, like the most like happy to allow someone else to operate within our space.
Yeah,
and that's an issue.
But see, the thing about it is that if you build a monopoly, right? Say, for example, a group of people in your community, right? Say, for example, they're young whiz kids and older people who have experience in some type of technology, whether it be AI or telecommunications or whatever. If they come together and they develop an invention, right? Okay, and they patent that invention, right? That's their monopoly. They own that. Why? Because they built it, they invented it, they have the blueprints for it, and nobody gets it unless they lease out the license, right? That's how companies do things. Okay, but as long as you have the blueprints and everything, the patent is yours. That's your monopoly.
Yeah, like
Gotcha.
Dr. Claude Anderson, he talked about certain, trying to be vertical and owning certain spaces, which like it definitely makes sense. And even now, like if you look at it now, there's shortages at certain times, right? And if it really got that bad, if they could only sell to, they only had this limited supply, are they gonna sell outside of the community when the community is in need and still willing to pay? Do you get what I'm saying? So that's also a vulnerability.
Yeah. Even if you get less money from your community from within, the more you take care of your own when they're in need, they'll be loyal to you, okay, when their needs are met. And most likely, that loyalty will lead to strengthen your community from the homestead, from families raising their children, to loyalty and and race relations between men and women in general, all the way up to your military or your defense force that ultimately will defend you, defend that landmass that's yours. from the outside. But you got to take care of your people first. Even if you get less treasure in the beginning, because in the end, on the back end and down the line, you'll be stronger for it. At least if that makes sense.
Sure. Just have to grab a little something. But I'm gonna run number 6, yeah? You lot are cool with that?
Okay. Yeah, go ahead.
I'm gonna put it in the back chat as well.
Sorry, I was muted. I was trying to say something. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah, go shit, bro.
Go ahead, Shaka.
Yeah. The part that one of the parts that stood out to me was the part where he was dropping the multiples of 5. There are not more than 5 this, and then there are not more than 5 that, but combine them, and you can you have more colors than you can ever view, basically. And there's 2 principles there. One is in terms of, probably relates to the previous chapter in terms of measurement being owes its existence to Earth, and the environment. If you know what's in your environment, then basically utilize what's in it rather than trying to hunt for something. You use what is in it to create something rather than trying to find something new in its finished form, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And then obviously this whole emphasis on combination. Obviously we're talking about the art of war, but the whole point is like there's strength in numbers and combined efforts. So it's kind of like a warning against individualism in a sense. And the desire to try and achieve or attain victory by oneself. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
In that kind of sense. I hope that makes sense. But yeah.
Yeah, go. I'm around 6, yeah. I'll find it right now.
1. Sun Tzu said, "Whoever is first in the field and awaits the coming of the enemy will be fresh for the fight. Whoever is second in the field and has to hasten to battle will arrive exhausted." 2. Therefore, the clever combatant imposes his will on the enemy, but does not allow the enemy's will to be imposed upon him. 3. By holding out advantages to him, he can cause the enemy to approach of his own accord, or by inflicting damage, he can make it impossible for the enemy to draw near. 4. If the enemy is taking his ease, he can harass him. If well supplied with food, he can starve him out. If quietly encamped, he can force him to move. 5. Appear at points which the enemy must hasten to defend. March swiftly to places where you are not expected. 6. An army may march great distances without distress if it marches through country where the enemy is not. 7. You can be sure of succeeding in your attacks if you only attack places which are undefended. You can ensure the safety of your defense if you only hold positions that cannot be attacked. 8. Hence, that general is skillful in attack whose opponent does not know what to defend, and he is skillful in defense whose opponent does not know what to attack. 9. O divine art of subtlety and secrecy, through you we learn to be invisible, through you inaudible, and hence we can hold the enemy's fate in our hands. 10. You may advance and be absolutely irresistible if you make for the enemy's weak points. You may retire and be safe from pursuit if your movements are more rapid than those of the enemy. 11. If we wish to fight, the enemy can be forced to an engagement even though he be sheltered behind a high rampart and a deep ditch. All we need do is to attack some other place that he will be obliged to relieve. 12. If we do not wish to fight, we can prevent the enemy from engaging us even though the lines of our encampment may be merely traced out on the ground. All we need do is to throw something odd and unaccountable in his way. 13. By discovering the enemy's dispositions and remaining invisible ourselves, we can keep our forces concentrated, while the enemy's must be divided. 14. We can form a single united body, while the enemy must split up into fractions. Hence, there will be a whole pitted against separate parts of a whole, which means that we shall be many to the enemy's few. 15. And if we are able thus to attack an inferior force with a superior one, our opponents will be in dire straits. 16. The spot where we intend to fight must not be made known, for then the enemy will have to prepare against a possible attack at several different points, and his forces being thus distributed in many directions, the numbers we shall have to face at any given point will be proportionately few. 17. For should the enemy strengthen his van, he will weaken his rear. Should he strengthen his rear, he will weaken his van. Should he strengthen his left, he will weaken his right. Should he strengthen his right, he will weaken his left. If he sends reinforcements everywhere, he will everywhere be weak. 18. Numerical weakness comes from having to prepare against possible attacks. Numerical strength from compelling our adversary to make these
Sorry, 1 second, yeah. For me to open the book, I have to stop this tune. I'm gonna send you like the in the back chat now.
So what y'all think so far?
preparations again.
Yeah, I'm just gonna run this. It's got like 3.5 minutes left of the chapter. Yeah, put the pages in the back chat.
And stuffs.
Okay.
19. Knowing the place and the time of the coming battle, we may concentrate from the greatest distances in order to fight. 20. But if neither time nor place be known, then the left wing will be impotent to succor the right equally impotent to succor the left, the van unable to relieve the rear, or the rear to support the van. How much more so if the furthest portions of the army are anything under 100 li apart, and even the nearest are separated by several li. 21. Though according to my estimate, the soldiers of Europe exceed our own in number, that shall advantage them nothing in the matter of victory. I say then that victory can be achieved. 22. Though the enemy be stronger in numbers, we may prevent him from fighting. Scheme so as to discover his plans and the likelihood of their success. 23. Rouse him and learn the principle of his activity or inactivity. Force him to reveal himself so as to find out his vulnerable spots. 24. Carefully compare the opposing army with your own so that you may know where strength is superabundant and where it is deficient. 25. In making tactical dispositions, the highest pitch you can attain is to conceal them. Conceal your dispositions, and you will be safe from the prying of the subtlest spies, from the machinations of the wisest brains. 26. How victory may be produced for them out of the enemy's own tactics. That is what the multitude cannot comprehend. 27. All men can see the tactics whereby I conquer, but what none can see is the strategy out of which victory is evolved. 28. Do not repeat the tactics which have gained you one victory, but let your methods be regulated by the infinite variety of circumstances. 29. Military tactics are like unto water, for water in its natural course runs away from high places and hastens downwards. 30. So in war, the way is to avoid what is strong and to strike at what is weak. 31. Water shapes its course according to the nature of the ground over which it flows. The soldier works out his victory in relation to the foe whom he is facing. 32. Therefore, just as water retains no constant shape, so in warfare there are no constant conditions. 33. He who can modify his tactics in relation to his opponent and thereby succeed in winning may be called a heaven-born captain. 34. The five elements are not always equally predominant. The four seasons make way for each other in turn. There are short days and long. The moon has its periods of waning and waxing. Maneuvering. 1.
Hello? Yeah. Anybody got anything to say about that chapter? We were saying some good stuff.
It seems to be about maneuvering and avoid the strengths of your common enemy and strike them at their weakest point.
I like number 32. Wait, is it 32? No, 33. He who can modify his tactics in relation to his opponent and thereby succeed in winning may be called a heaven-born captain. So I would take the ending part to mean like you're being a good leader if you can modify your tactics in relation to your opponent. You know, you can't come at every opponent the same exact way.
Right.
You know, so when you can modify that and adjust towards the opponent that you have, you know, that's a good sign of a good leader.
Yeah,
That's what's up right there.
yeah. And a good leader respects his opponent, respects his opponent's strengths and avoids them, and exploits the opponent's weaknesses by attacking him at his weak point.
Hmm.
And you just as your common enemy adjusts. If a weakness becomes a strength, you avoid it and you attack what he's weak at.
Yeah. I like 23. Rouse him and learn the principle of his activity or inactivity. Force him to reveal himself so as to find out his vulnerable spots.
Mhm.
Yeah, I like that one. Like drawing them out and then, yeah, seeing where the real attack can begin from. Oh,
Yeah, I think that's really key when like someone loses their emotions or whatever. It's very telling and it reveals a lot about that person's sensitive areas. How to draw them out, so to speak, and shows ways where you can capitalize. So yeah, 23. I think I saw another one that I think 34. So the five elements, water, fire, wood, metal, and earth, are not always equally dominant. There are short days and there are long days. The moon has its period of waning and waxing. And what I got from that is that like you can have different tools and like not every time it's time to take out the hammer and just bang things out. You know, sometimes you might need flathead screwdriver. Sometimes you might need some sandpaper. Sometimes you might need, like just different tools. Um, so all of the elements they have their purpose and they have their time. When those particular things, can somebody mute up, please? A lot of background noise.
Sorry,
Hello.
sorry.
Yeah. Um, there are times where those different elements kind of are more dominant and they shine, and there are other times where they got to take the back seat.
Yeah,
So, yeah, I thought a 34 was a good way for us, encouraging us to look at all of the different tools that we have, and um, like even with myself, I know that my way with words is a tool, but there's other times when my tool is listening and I just be on mute, and I can learn from the brothers, I can learn from the sisters. I don't have to always speak, and um, it's just good for us to be mindful of all of the tools that we bring to the table.
that's true. And sometimes, and I don't like saying this, it shames me to say this, but sometimes you have to listen and gather intelligence from the ones amongst you, because as it always happens, there are a few who are not friends with you.
I'm over here going, and I got my phone on mute. Yes, yes. It's the being on Zoom is a little different than being on Hangout. I mean, what's it called? It StreamYard. So
StreamYard, yeah.
yeah, I'm getting accustomed to it. But yeah, anything else? Somebody's camera's on.
Yeah.
Anything else stands out to anyone from the previous chapter before? How many more chapters we got, Brother E?
Too many. Like for
Two.
now, I feel like we can do one more.
We can do one more. All right, that sounds good. What's good? Mr. Lee's in the building. Big up, Mr. Lee. Big up, Ultra Funky and Mrs. Funky. Ultra said he and his missus were listening. So we want to show love to the Queen and everybody that passed through. Andre Pendleton, Annabelle. Who else we had? I know I saw Vado. Vado was in the building. EIE. EIE was definitely anticipating a constructive convo video. He was like, I'm waiting. So it's good to know that the family, didn't forget about us and just know, stay tuned for a lot more videos of bringing this information, bringing some tools that you can add to self betterment and community building. So yeah, brother E.
BT, was there something that you wanted to say? Because I saw you unmuted a while ago.
No, it was a small thing. It was something that I just read. I'll bring it up real quick. It was. Oh, I can't find it. It was something along the lines of to build secure victory by attacking their weak point. I think Eric touched on it already though. But yeah, I like the style of like the process of reducing it down to near certainty. You know what I mean? With that type of focus, yeah, you get what it says on the tin, near certainty. So yeah, man.
Oh yeah. I mean,
another one I like. Go on, bro, before I move on to the next.
No, I'm just saying, I mean, why would you want to go strength for strength? Because I mean, as you tear down your enemy, you tear down your own forces. But if you avoid the strengths, you attack the weaknesses, there's more of your army left. More of your army left to fight and more strength.
Yeah, another one that I liked, yeah, just real quick, is number 8, yeah. Hence the general is skillful in attack whose opponent does not know what to defend, and he is skillful in defense whose opponent does not know what to attack. And I think, yeah, that one was powerful still.
And in 16, it then goes to say, the spot where we intend to fight must not be made known, for then the enemy will have to prepare against a possible attack at several different points, and his forces being thus distributed in many directions. Yeah, man. So just all this is basically anything you can do to weaken, or if you're gonna choose a target, you're gonna choose the weaker targets first. I mean, it sounds like super sensible, but I think it's something like the obvious is one of them things you sometimes can take for granted. You know what I mean? But just working it into a process. You know what I mean? Like the list he gave earlier on about near chances. I can't remember it again, but yeah.
But on a micro level, right, that's something that society tells us that's not good, right? Like if you're gonna fight someone that, there's only, if they're smaller than you or whatever, people try to make it a certain thing. Or like say for example, if you're, 3 stone heavier, then it's like, you shouldn't be doing that, you're too big for them or whatever. But really and truly, that's like the art of war in effect, no?
Exactly, because I said earlier on, it said something about basically displaying the opposite of what it actually is. So if you are confused, make it seem like you're confident in, exactly what it is you're doing, and and if you don't know, if you do know what you're doing, maybe perhaps play on like you're confused or there's mass hysteria when there really isn't. I remember saying that earlier on. So yeah, I do think it's consistent.
I'm gonna run this last one, yeah, and then we can chat about that. I'll put that in the back chat as well.
So said, in war, the general receives his commands from the sovereign. 2. Having collected an army and concentrated his forces, he must blend and harmonize the different elements thereof before pitching his camp. 3. After that comes tactical maneuvering, than which there is nothing more difficult. The difficulty of tactical maneuvering consists in turning the devious into the direct and misfortune into gain. 4. Thus, to take a long and circuitous route after enticing the enemy out of the way, and those starting after him to contrive to reach the goal before him, shows knowledge of the artifice of deviation. 5. Maneuvering with an army is advantageous, with an undisciplined multitude, most dangerous. 6. If you set a fully equipped army in march in order to snatch an advantage, the chances are that you will be too late. On the other hand, to detach a flying column for the purpose involves the sacrifice of its baggage and stores. 7. Thus, if you order your men to roll up their buff coats and make forced marches without halting day or night, covering double the usual distance at a stretch, doing 100 li in order to wrest an advantage, the leaders of all your 3 divisions will fall into the hands of the enemy. 8. The stronger men will be in front, the jaded ones will fall behind, and on this plan, only 1/10 of your army will reach its destination. 9. If you march 50 li in order to outmaneuver the enemy, you will lose the leader of your 1st division, and only half your force will reach the goal. 10. If you march 30 li with the same object, 2/3 of your army will arrive. 11. We may take it then that an army without its baggage train is lost. Without provisions, it is lost. Without basis of supply, it is lost. 12. We cannot enter into alliances until we are acquainted with the designs of our neighbors. 13. We are not fit to lead an army on the march unless we are familiar with the face of the country, its mountains and forests, its pitfalls and precipices, its marshes and swamps. 14. We shall be unable to turn natural advantages to account unless we make use of local guides. 15. In war, practice dissimulation, and you will succeed. Move only if there is a real advantage to be gained. 16. Whether to concentrate or to divide your troops must be decided by circumstances. 17. Let your rapidity be that of the wind, your compactness that of the forest. 18. In raiding and plundering, be like fire, in immovability, like a mountain. 19. Let your plans be dark and impenetrable as night, and when you move, fall like a thunderbolt. 20. When you plunder a countryside, let the spoil be divided amongst your men. When you capture new territory, cut it up into allotments for the benefit of the soldiery. 21. Ponder and deliberate before you make a move. 22. He will conquer who has learnt the artifice of deviation. Such is the art of maneuvering. 23. The Book of Army Management says, On the field of battle, the spoken word does not carry far enough. Hence the institution of gongs and drums. Nor can ordinary objects be seen clearly enough. Hence the institution of banners and flags. 24. Gongs and drums, banners and flags are means whereby the ears and eyes of the host may be focused on one particular point. 25. The host thus forming a single united body, it is impossible either for the brave to advance alone or for the cowardly to retreat alone. This is the art of handling large masses of men. 26. In night fighting, then, make much use of signal fires and drums, and in fighting by day, of flags and banners, as a means of influencing the ears and eyes of your army. 27. A whole army may be robbed of its spirit. A commander-in-chief may be robbed of his presence of mind. 28. Now a soldier's spirit is keenest in the morning. By noonday it has begun to flag, and in the evening his mind is bent only on returning to camp. 29. A clever general, therefore, avoids an army when its spirit is keen, but attacks it when it is sluggish and inclined to return. This is the art of studying moods. 30. Disciplined and calm, to await the appearance of disorder and hubbub amongst the enemy. This is the art of retaining self-possession. 31. To be near the goal while the enemy is still far from it. To wait at ease while the enemy is toiling and struggling. To be well fed while the enemy is famished. This is the art of husbanding one's strength. 32. To refrain from intercepting an enemy whose banners are in perfect order. To refrain from attacking an army drawn up in calm and confident array. This is the art of studying circumstances. 33. It is a military axiom not to advance uphill against the enemy, nor to oppose him when he comes downhill. 34. Do not pursue an enemy who simulates flight. Do not attack soldiers whose temper is keen. 35. Do not swallow a bait offered by the enemy. Do not interfere with an army that is returning home. 36. When you surround an army, leave an outlet free. Do not press a desperate foe too hard. 37. Such is the art of warfare. Eight.
Yo.
That was what, chapter 7, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was.
Yeah, let me go back to
Maneuvering.
first couple ones. The first couple ones, maneuvering, right?
Yeah, you can definitely see like with the mood, like, and like, say for example with police tactics, right? The way they generally would raise someone's house like early in the mornings. That makes sense, right? Because people will be sleeping, or like they're not going to catch them at the most active, and that makes sense because they want to catch them hard, obviously.
I know.
Wait, well, which one was it? What did you say?
Talking about the midnight raids, like when the police come and raid a house, a lot of the time they'll do it like at a unsociable hour when it's late and you're likely to not be prepared and active to give them advice.
Or zero dark 30 when you're still in slumber. Suddenly you have to awake.
Say that again, bro.
Okay.
It was a bit muffled.
What you say?
Say that again, please. I didn't really hear you.
I said that also police do raids at zero dark 30. That is like anywhere from 3:30 to 4 in the morning, 3:30 to 5 in the morning, where people are usually asleep. They're in slumber, and all of a sudden they have to wake up. That's a shock to the system.
Yeah, they're not prepared. They don't have a general, okay, the door goes off, my shoes are here. Like, it's like, okay, what's going on right now? And yeah, it's like a flashbang in itself. The strong, yeah, and like it kind of reiterates the most that they're using your strengths against weaknesses, which I suppose is something that should be drummed home until it's like natural behavior. Then yeah, maybe it needs to be talked about multiple times, because that is such a key point. Even in like Gallup, the strengths test, that's something that it talks about also. Like that maximizing your strengths, and and attacking where they're gonna bear the most fruit, which is where other people are weak.
So the one that stuck out to me is, kind of as soon as the chapter started, was number 5. Maneuvering with an army is advantageous. With an undisciplined multitude, most dangerous. And it just made me feel like the difference between an army and a undisciplined multitude has to do with the structure, has to do with having a common goal, having to do with that foundation, and having all their actions based off of something, and everyone has buy-in and they're moving and thinking in the same direction, and versus the undisciplined multitude, where you might possibly have like a lot of people focusing on their individual, what's a priority for them individually, and you have all of those people moving from an individual mindset, and it's the outcome could be dangerous. Imagine if my goal is to attack and your goal is to observe and gain intel, and then I just blow everyone's cover because I'm running screaming with the gun, and everyone's cover's blown, and then we get ambushed. So just that just kind of stuck out to me, that even in a not a non-war situation, having people around you, your squad, so to speak, all of y'all basically on the same thing, how that could be advantageous for you. But if you rolling with people and everyone has different agendas, everyone has different motivations, everyone is basically going in different directions, you're not going to go anywhere.
Also, that's where I was like, whole
Talk up,
marching
talk up,
thing.
Raz.
That's what I was saying with the whole marching thing as well. That like not having a pairing where you're influencing politics through lobbyists and economic factors is a disadvantage, because all you're doing is just making quote unquote unnecessary noises and riling up the warrior class of your enemy to crush you, and that's what we're seeing. And I don't see where we're leading now in the area of marching and all these different protests benefits us in any way. In fact, it seems to be after every protest, there's always an increase sort of um, attack on black people worldwide. So I think that while we're in weakness, we should just gotta stand and play the 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 good with lack of a better word, a good slave, while we get close to Master to stab him in his neck. Really. really and truly.
Okay. Anybody else?
Yes, the part of that, sorry, the section of that one that stood out to me was the part where it talked about the gong, that little gong sequence, and the flag, and the fact that the ending line went something like, so having a unified focus prevents the courageous from running towards the enemy alone, and prevents the cowardly from running away or retreating alone. Um, that whole sequence there stood out to me in terms of the balance between courage and cowardliness, but in the sense of the fact that neither certifies victory in a war, in that sense. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and you know what? I think it also. Wait, I don't even know if I'm off mute. I'm trying to go from screen to screen. Can y'all hear me?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. I really think that what to me that highlights group think, you know, and it's important, like I guess as a leader, to understand group think and how powerful it is, and then using like you mentioned, Shakara, the flag and the gong as tools to trigger that group think, right? Because the when you think about, you watch a sporting event and they play music, or they have these little chants, look at how it riles everyone up, like, or people are going to go slaughter a bull. Why do people get so excited? It's literally groupthink. It's like everyone else is pumped, I'm gonna get pumped. You're screaming, I'm gonna start screaming. You don't even know why you're screaming. You're just screaming because everyone else is screaming. Hey, we're gonna watch a bull get killed, even though that may be really disgusting and gross to you or something like that. But somehow you just get caught up in this group thing. So you might think, yeah, I'm a bad man and such. Next thing you know, your whole squad just turns around, starts running. You're like, why are we running? You turn around running too. You know what I'm saying? Like you don't see the flag. Hey, the flag means something. So all of these all of this visual, auditory type of things can trigger a response. It could be a response to retreat, or it could be a response to attack. So us knowing those things, we can then use visuals and use sound. Even with the work that I do, sometimes I use smell. Like, so I may use what you call it, aromatherapy, right? I may use aromatherapy to trigger. Okay, this is a relaxed space, so you're not going to be all hype over here. You're not going to be agitated and angry and aggressive. This is a space where you calm down. So as soon as the person comes in, they get that trigger, they get that signal. It just hits them, and they're like, "Oh, it's cool. It smells good," and their whole vibe just changes. So the to me, that's kind of what I got from this, is that the use of those things as a tool to use towards other people. Anybody else?
Yeah. And on the whole banner thing, I think also, like, it's interesting that without the flag and the gong, I think he said it was, yeah, both sets of people could end up doing the wrong thing, like the courageous and the cowardly, not just the cowardly. So yeah, I think that's an important point as well.
Definitely.
Yeah, man. That's
Any,
on the whole.
anybody
Like,
else
so what
have
are we thinking
any?
about like what we've read so far, and even like the need for strategy and to know about these kind of things and to be thinking in certain strategic ways in how we operate in our daily lives and on a macro and a micro level.
I think they're necessary. For me, I think it's necessary to think this way, to be mindful, and like I said before, like just adding new things to how we go about dealing with things. You know what I'm saying? Like being mindful of how we could influence or use be more reserved with our response, or how to read and anticipate who we deem to be our opposition. I think sometimes people do those things, but it's they don't even recognize that they're doing it. So I think speaking about it, reading about it, seeing the words, talking about it, hearing it, all of those things brings it more to our consciousness and not in our subconscious, so that we can do it more efficiently.
Also, yeah, with a lot of these things like these areas or opportunities to gain an advantage over your opponent, it's almost like there's a counterbalance to it as well. So even like when we're talking about the confident and the not confident, or the one who's gonna flee and the one who's gonna go in too quickly, like there's always seems to be this balance. So within that balance, there seems to be an opportunity to turn tables, or to at least, at the very least, utilize similar methodology and tactics as you're being oppressed by. One of the early points that I liked in the last section that we read here was number 12. We cannot enter into an alliance until we are acquainted with the designs of our neighbors. And I think I think it's important defining a situation, or the environment around us, and the design to which we're agreeing to. I think sometimes is where we can fall short, and it's also somewhere where we can get stuck. We can get stuck on just like defining and annotating, and again, perhaps that comes to the balance. In war, practice dissemination, whether you concentrate or define. Yeah, here you go. Whether to, in war, practice dissimulation and you will succeed. Whether to concentrate or to divide your troops must be decided by circumstances. I think sometimes you can also go into certain things tunnel visioned, almost with the answers to how we would deal with a scenario without allowing the actual circumstance to sort of inform our response. And I think it is a better position to always be prepared to allow the circumstance to guide your response. You know what I mean? As well as obviously using previous lessons learned and just common knowledge and the rest of it. But yeah, I think I think that point, what it says to me is also promoting a level of fluidity and flexibility in the way you deploy these tactics. And it also previously spoke in one of the previous sessions spoke about not reusing the same tactic, even if it's gained you success, and that you should have a diverse pool of tactics to be able to deploy. So yeah, overall, I just like the sort of the whole catalog of methodology and process, and a lot of it makes sense. Do you know what I mean? Yeah, that's my bit there.
Yeah. For me, yeah, I like the focus of it. You know, it was always about winning, always about victory, you know, which is important. And then like breaking down and not being scared to say, you know, what might be the unpopular thing, or, you know, basically people might not say this stuff in it, but they will do it when push comes to shove. Like when they're trying to win, they're going to use nearly any tactic. So it's good to know such tactics, and to realize that we need to, as a community, stop always trying to win by direct. Sometimes we need to be a bit more indirect in our movements, and yeah, we'll get more results, because a lot of indirect stuff is being done to us, and we only focus on the direct stuff, which is also a lot, but you know, not always as impactful.
That's a big point right there. That's a big point right there. That the indirect, I think that when you feel like you're being oppressed, or you feel like you're being persecuted, in order to save face, you respond with the direct retaliation in some sort. And I think that, when Raz was expressing his frustration with the marching, I think that to sometimes that seems like the only recourse that people have that could be immediate, gain attention, be loud, and seem like we're doing something. But, going with your point, Brother E, like having a response that is a little bit more indirect, a little bit more strategic, um, requiring a little bit more analysis into the areas of weakness of your opponent. I think we need to start implementing that type of response. I mean, it doesn't have to replace the other one, but yeah, I think that's definitely something that we need to start doing.
Yeah, like I think there's a lot to unpack. Even like, I'm not sure did we even get through half of the book, but yeah, man, like we'll have to get through the rest of it another time. But yeah, there's a lot. Like, and when it starts going into even terrain, it's quite interesting, and how to deal with spies and the different types of spies and these kind of things and agents, that are used to infiltrate. It gets interesting. So yeah, man, everybody look out for that one.
Yeah, you guys look out for part 2 as we continue to uncover all of this information, all of this strategy and strategic ways of basically being victorious in conflict, and dealing with our enemies in a way, and how to it not just be a physical uh, attack, but more so of the different elements in our lives and in our community we feel that are attacking our community, so we can be more strategic in how we respond to these attacks. So yeah, stay tuned for make sure you hit that notification bell, because as you can see, you never know when CC is going to be live. And anyone have any final words? If not, we just want to wish you Black Power, peace and Black Power to the fam. We out? Are we out?
Hello?
I don't know.
Hello?
Brother B2 is supposed to be pulling the plug. B2? Okay.
Yeah, big up, Brother Witness. Just come back there. Good time.
Our witness is back.
Hello, yeah, I'm back, yeah. Back.
Okay. I thought we were wrapping it up, but did you have something you wanted to add?
No. I was listening to a lot of the questions. I mean, I asked a couple of things earlier. I was listening to Shakara, asking some questions and stuff. No, I'm cool. Everything I heard was it's the first time. I'm glad I actually went through it. It's the first time I've actually gone through that book. Heard about it for ages, never did. Just hearing it on the audio thing. See, it's amazing how easy it made it to listen to it and to digest the information. So, nah, I like that.
I found it way more informative reading it while he was saying it, and just being able to think about it while you're hearing it and then seeing it. It's just listening to it, it was just feeling like overload. Too many
Yeah, you could do that.
Too many nuggets at one time. Too many golden nuggets at one time. It was like, what? Let me see. Somebody on. You talking to me? E, you were saying something? Okay.
Melanated Goddess, I will speak to you again soon. I'm gonna disconnect since we're done. I think
Okay.
I can't see B2. E is about, but B2 seems muted.
Yeah, he's coming still.
Okay.
Yeah, big up, bro.
All right, big up, Brother Witness.
Take care. It's a pleasure. Speak to you real soon. Yeah, take care, Raz.
Big up. We're still live,
Let me see what we got going on. I know I was communicating with our sister Nine Ether. She showed up. Yes, the goddess is in the building. We want to show our CC sister some love.
Big up, sis. What, is she in the chat or is she on YouTube end?
No, she's in the chat. Hope that you and your family are well. Stay all nice and warm in the quarantine. I know they eating some good old rice and peas and ting. Yes. Take care of the fam.
Powers to the sister in her chat still.
She said CC settings.
So what are we saying now? Are we wrapping it up or what are we saying? Are we continuing?
Yeah, we were wrapping it up. I think you had stepped away, but I was basically had said all the farewells and everything, and then I was like, all right, we out. And then B2 didn't pull the plug. I was like, oh, okay. But people got to be patient because we new to the Zoom thing. But we gonna get this.
Trust. All right then, cool. So what? We ending now, yeah?
Yeah, we ending. Peace, family. Stay tuned for part 2. All right. Love.